Let us begin with a simple, unsettling truth. Words can help and words can hinder. Words are only auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. Do you see? The Spirit does not need our rhetoric. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. The mature measure of this work is not better phrases, but a better ear. Not a mouth quick to speak truth, but a heart quick to hear it where it already is, before your lips ever form a sentence. Be still and know that I am God. Knowing does not come by eloquence, it comes by receptivity. Now, you must have a way to locate yourself, because without a map you will imagine progress where there is only agreeable sound. You will recognize your stage not by how beautifully you can say it, but by your day-to-day fruitage, by your life experience, by the fruitage. If harmony appears more quickly, if problems dissolve with less struggle, if peace becomes steady and not episodic, then you are not merely talking about God, you are yielding to God. If not, if speech increases while demonstrations decrease, you are on an emotional jag and words have become a veil. Do you follow that? This whole message aims in one direction: a decrease of personal will and personal speech and an increase of inner hearing. The listening ear becomes the governor of life. My sheep hear my voice. Not my sheep repeat truth at life, but hear within life the voice that was before speech. In the beginning was the Word, and that word, logos, is not our phrasing. It is that which is uttered of God before thought. Our task is not to manufacture truth, but to stand in the place where truth is heard and allowed to be itself. When someone calls in crisis, I do not begin a discourse. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. And then I will help you not with words thrown like pebbles at a window, but by standing by in consciousness, listening. Do you see why that would be a relief? The burden of performing is removed. There is no need to argue with appearances. Resist not evil. We are not resisting. We are receiving the word that dissolves the suggestion of two powers, not by debate, but by presence. Often in those moments, no more is said. The talk ceases. The work begins. Now, some will ask, are words then forbidden? No, they are auxiliaries. Especially at the beginning, words are used to turn the mind Godward, to prime the pump, but never to worship the pump. We shall speak of 4 stages by which talk decreases and receptivity increases. For now, hold this. Any word rightfully used must lead swiftly into silence or into that inner hush in which the impartation takes place. If a sentence rouses you to listen, it served. If it inflates you to speak more, it failed. I will give you a phrase as a doorway and not as a formula. God is manifest as individual being. Do not rush to broadcast it. Let it soften your ear. Thou seest me, thou seest the Father, means that the Father is not out there to be persuaded, but here as being to be heard. And again, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear that not as flattery, but as authority, establishing identity, then be quiet enough to receive its government. So let us agree on our foundation. Words may begin a prayer, they must not run it. Words may start a class, they cannot carry it. The listening ear is the altar. Practice, then, this small obedience. Before you answer, listen. Before you affirm, listen. Before you deny, listen. Ask within what is and wait. Do you follow that words are not the power? The power is the presence made evident when the ear is consecrated. And the evidence is not your emotion, but your fruitage. If you will be faithful in this, you will find that speech becomes fewer words with greater weight, until one quiet, I will help you, bears heaven's own authority. Now let us be very practical. How shall you know whether you are listening or merely liking the sound of spiritual words? By their fruits ye shall know them, not by your high days, not by the thrills that pass through you in a meeting, but by the quiet order of your ordinary living relationships that find harmony instead of recurring friction, supply that proves itself sufficient without scheming, health that steadies without constant alarm, fear that loses its vocabulary. If the presence is being realized, then life begins to show it. Do you see? Here is the simple measuring rod. If your understanding is real, problems are solved more quickly and with less strain, not because you have learned to push harder with statements, but because you have ceased pushing and begun hearing. The kingdom of God is not in word, but in power. When power appears, pressure departs. When realization dawns, the fever to fix cools. If, however, the same matters revisit you with the same panic, and you meet them with longer speeches and tighter jaws, you may be entertaining words without spirit. That is an emotional jag. It feels spiritual for the length of a song and collapses at the first phone call. I am not condemning you. I am giving you a way to locate yourself. Many dear souls repeat, all is well, God is, and then jump at every noise, judge at every headline, and rehearse every injury of yesterday as if it were a sacrament. That is using words as a shield, not a door. This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, but their heart is far from me. The heart far from God is the ear closed to God. The mouth moves, the government does not. Do you follow that? Another sign, your reactions. If you can be triggered into resentment as swiftly as before, if you must correct your neighbor in order to feel safe, if you rush to defend an opinion as if salvation depended upon it, then the letter is still ruling the house. It may be a good letter, it may even be our favorite phrases, but it is still letter. Realization softens reactivity. Perfect love casteth out fear. The love that casts out fear is not a mood. It is God realized as the only presence, the only power, the only cause, and therefore nothing left to resist. Now, do not mistake the aim. We are not after Stoicism. We are after fruitage. Fruit is not a faith you hold. Fruit is a life that bears. Herein is my Father glorified, that ye bear much fruit. When the inner hearing is maturing, you will notice three changes. Fewer words before, greater ease during, and truer gratitude after. Before the issue, fewer words are needed to settle into presence. During the issue, less argument is required. You find yourself listening in the midst. Afterward, gratitude is not a boast. It is a quiet recognition that God has been God. I am the vine, ye are the branches. Branches do not strain to bear, they abide and fruit appears. So we come to calibration. If the problems are quickly and easily being solved, if the rhythm of harmony grows steadier, if fear no longer shouts the orders, then there is no question you have some measure of God realized, and you are ready to proceed in this work with confidence. If not, you have a gift in your hands, honesty. Honesty is the door to the next stage. When you admit that words alone have not moved the mountain, you stop performing spirituality and begin practicing it. This is why I speak of stages not as a ladder to pride, but as a map to receptivity. Each stage reduces dependence on personal speech and increases dependence on inner impartation. We begin with words as auxiliaries. We end in a silence that heals, because the doer is God. Once fruitage becomes your standard, you will not be tempted to impress anyone with your vocabulary. You will be content with results, quiet households, decent sleep, timely supply, reconciled differences, healed bodies, unafraid hearts. And when the next call comes, your conversation will again be limited to, I will help you, for you will have learned where help lives. From that moment, you are through with spiritual display. You incline your ear. You let the word be what it is. And the proof will not be your feeling, it will be your fruitage. You see? Stage one is the letter. It is where nearly all of us begin. And there is no shame in beginning there. We are children learning our alphabet. We mouth the words that point to reality until mind turns toward the invisible. Words prime the pump. They are not the water. Do you see? The letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. The letter does not kill because it is evil. It kills because when we cling to it as power, we miss the Spirit. That is the power. So in stage one, we use words honestly, respectfully, as auxiliaries, training wheels for consciousness. Then we put our feet to the ground and ride by inner balance. The value of this stage is discipline. Repeated, conscious, knowing, steady thought. It interrupts fear's habit of shouting orders. It begins to form a new reflex. Before you rush to fix, you remember to recognize. Be still and know that I am God. You cannot be still without first catching yourself in motion. Words can catch you. A simple, sincere sentence may break the spell of panic and turn you Godward. I and the Father are one. God is manifest as individual being. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. If you use them gently, they quiet the surface so the deeper current can be felt. But here also lies the danger. Students mistake verbal correctness for consciousness. They take the phrases they love and throw them at problems, at people, at newspapers, and sometimes at the suffering. That is not ministry, that is noise. I have heard dear one say to a grieving mother, there are no accidents in divine mind, as if that sentence could anesthetize her loss. No. In that hour, put a hand on her shoulder. Say, I will help you. Then be quiet. Keep truth sacred in your own heart and let love do its work. Let your words be few. Do you follow that? We never weaponize metaphysics. We do not voice truth to contradict pain. We realize truth to remove the belief in two powers. I remember a young father, this was in a little town off the coast, who had pasted 30 affirmations around his home. He confessed, when the bill came due, I stood in the kitchen and recited them all. The bill still sat on the table. I said, take down 29. Leave one that turns you Godward. Speak it once or twice, enough to prime your remembrance. Then stop. Listen. Within a week, he discovered a quiet guidance to make a simple call he had been dreading. The supply arranged itself. The words did not pay the bill. The Spirit governed as he listened. By his life experience, by the fruitage, he knew the difference. So here is your stage one practice. Upon waking, before you look at a screen, before you consult a calendar, consciously know, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. Or if you prefer, omnipresence is, and I am in it. 30 seconds. Then stop, feel for the stillness behind the sentence. At meals, pause and know, one presence, one power, one life appearing as this. Then eat in peace. With money decisions, quietly say, supply is the activity of God in consciousness, abundance is. Make the decision without fear. Before sleep, let the last word be, thank you, Father, and then let the ear rest in quiet. In each case, the speaking is brief, the listening is the aim. Do not extend these periods into argument. Do not lecture yourself. When you sense the mind warming to the presence, drop the words. Drop them. Sit with the hush that follows. My sheep hear my voice. The sheep do not bleat at the shepherd. They listen. If you find that you must speak on and on, you have lost the trail. One or two sentences rightly used will carry you to the threshold. Then Spirit must take you through. If you practice stage one this way, you will notice modest but definite fruitage. of fear subsides sooner. A sharp tongue softens before it strikes. A practical direction arrives without drama. This is not fireworks. This is foundation. The pump is primed. The water begins to flow. When that is steady, you are ready to let even fewer words do even less and discover that the less you say, the more you hear. Do you see? The infinite way is built around a few words. Not many, a few. And one of these is as, do you see? Not God and you, not God then you, not God over you, God as you. God is manifest as individual being. This is not poetry. It is identity. It is the end of separation in thought, the end of two powers, the end of pleading with an external deity. I and the Father are one. That is the as. He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. That is the as. God, the invisible appearing as Son, the visible appearing as individual being. When you accept as awakening begins, because you are no longer trying to climb to God, you are consenting to be the transparency through which God shines. Let us be very clear and very simple. You are not trying to become spiritual. You are consenting to what you are. Sonship is not a merit badge. It is the fact of being. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear that not as compliment, but as constitution. When the Father pronounces sonship, the Son does not begin striving. He abides. He listens. He lives from what is, not toward what might be. Do you follow that? All the strain of comparison, better than yesterday, worse than your neighbor, belongs to the belief in a self apart from God trying to climb into grace. There is no such self. There is only grace appearing as you. Now, I know what human sense will say. Yes, but I do not feel spiritual. Of course, you do not feel it when you are measuring by emotions and behaviors. We do not begin with feeling. We begin with fact. The fact is, as the Father as Son, the infinite as individual, the ocean as wave. If you try to measure the ocean by the froth, you will be deceived. If you recognize the wave as water, you are safe, so you consent. Quietly, humbly, Father, I agree with you about me. That is the pivot. Agreement ends argument. Then words can decrease, because you are no longer attempting to convince God or reform yourself. You are letting God be God as the only life you have. Here is how as corrects our speech. Stage 1 still talks about God, good talk, helpful talk, sacred talk, because talk can prime the remembrance. But as begins to thin the talk. Why? Because the one who is talking to God is being seen through. There is less to say when the speaker is not a separate someone trying to reach something. In stage 2, you will notice the shift. You do not declare at appearances so much as you stand inside the as and recognize what is. Fewer words, more authority. Less excitement, more peace. You speak a sentence, yes, God appearing as individual being is the life of this moment, and then you listen. The government rests upon his shoulder. A student once said to me, I am working very hard to imitate the Christ. I said, drop it. Consent to the Christ as the only I. Imitation belongs to separation. As dissolves it, I live, yet not I. Christ liveth my life. There is no external standard to copy, only the inner that lives itself. When this becomes your standpoint, comparison falls like a dull blade. Effort transmutes into obedience. The ear governs the tongue, and fruitage appears because life no longer struggles to author itself. It agrees to be authored. Anchor yourself in Scripture, not as phrases for show, but as revelation of identity. I and the Father are one. Sit with that until the sense of two quiets. He that hath seen me hath seen the Father. Sit with that until the practice of condemning yourself or your brother cannot find a foothold. Then be silent. Let us carry you into is. For now, let this much be consecrated in you. There is no God in you. There is God as you. Consent to that, and you will discover why words can grow few without loss, because presence, once given the ear, speaks for itself. Do you see? Stage 2 is the is practice, having consented to as you now rest in what is. You are not trying to make truth happen. You are recognizing what already is as effortlessly as acknowledging that 2x2 equals 4. No pushing, no pleading, no mental mechanics. Before Abraham was, I am. Not I was, not I will be, I am. I am that I am. This is present fact, not future hope. You see, in stage 2, words are disciplined. A sentence or two turns you Godward. Then you abide in isness. You stop speaking at appearances and begin noticing the presence within them. Let the rhythm of this take shape in you. Harmony is, life is, love is, abundance is, omnipresence is, I am. Speak it not as a chant to convince yourself, but as a recognition of what cannot be added to or subtracted from. Thy word is truth. If it is truth, it does not require your argument. It requires your agreement. So you say quietly one sentence, and you let the sentence open into silence. Be still and know that I am God. The knowing follows the stillness, not the chatter. My sheep hear my voice. They do not bleat longer. They listen deeper. Do you follow that? Understand the contrast, because it will save you years. The moment you set yourself to change an appearance by mental force, more statements, more intensity, more work, you have already admitted an opposite power which must be overcome. There are not two powers. Resist not evil. To resist is to enthrone what you resist. The arm of flesh is nothingness. When a pain flares or a bill arrives or a headline shouts, if you meet it with combat, you are already in the arena of 2. Stage 2 refuses the arena and returns at once to is. Life is, law is, order is, the government is on his shoulder. In that recognition, the appearance yields or reorients of its own accord, not because you overpowered it, but because you ceased believing in it as a power. What does this look like in the day? It looks like fewer speeches in your head and quicker homecomings to the center. The news scrolls, you feel a tug in the gut, you pause and acknowledge omnipresence is. Then you put down the device and wait 10 seconds. A symptom taps on the body's window. You do not answer with a paragraph. You recognize life is, wholeness is, I am, 10 seconds. A figure in the account seems shy. You do not whip yourself into abundance. You remember, abundance is the activity of God, already present as the necessary form. Make the call that presents itself. Pay what you can in peace. Watch what arranges itself without the fever of personal will. By your life experience, by the fruitage, you will know whether you are living, is, or rehearsing it. Take this as a mini assignment. One phrase, then wait. Father, show me what is. Then close the lips and the inner jaw, even if only 10 seconds. Wait. Do it at the door before you leave the house. Do it at the red light. Do it before you answer an email. Do it when fear leaps. Do it when joy leaps too, because we unsee human good as well as evil to behold the invisible that governs both. One phrase, then 10 seconds of holy non-interference. If nothing seems to come, you still obey the law of is. You refuse the suggestion that anything must be added to God. Often the guidance is not a sentence. It is a lightening in the chest, a softening in the breath, a single, unafraid next step. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Let him do them. You will notice the fruitage of stage 2 in very ordinary ways. Tempers cool before tongues strike. Practical directions appear without fanfare. The right word to a child arrives at the right moment. And you wonder why you were about to lecture when a hand on the shoulder and I am here carried heaven's own weight. Meetings conclude quicker with more fairness because you sat 10 seconds before you spoke. Sleep deepens. Supply becomes timely instead of dramatic. The same world continues, but you are not living against it. You are living from within it, where isness abides. This is not passivity. It is presence. It is the end of fixing and the birth of seeing. And the more you live inside is, the fewer words you need, and the greater their authority when they are given. Harmony is, life is, love is, abundance is, omnipresence is, I am. Do you see? Now we come to a merciful discovery that relieves much of the struggle. Error is not a person, not a law, not a substance. It is suggestion, impersonal mesmerism, a universal belief in two powers trying to sell itself as fact. Do you see? The moment we attach a name, a face, a history to the disturbance, we have dignified it. We have granted it a place to stand. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. The wrestling is not with your neighbor, your organ, your balance sheet. It is with a suggestion that there is a power apart from God. That suggestion has no person, it has no law, it has no substance. It is the arm of flesh nothingness. Think of the old picture. A rope on the ground at dusk is mistaken for a snake. The body jumps, the heart races, the mouth cries out, then a light is struck. Rope, not snake. What happened to the snake? It never was. The fear was real to sense. The cause was not. Or take my favorite white poodle, non-existent, but seen in the corner of the eye, wagging, alarming, then found to be a cushion with a tassel. The moment you see the tassel, there is no ceremony required to banish the poodle. There never was a poodle to fight. Do you follow that? This is the nature of error. It parades as something, but it is hypnotism, suggestion, belief in two powers. Here is your coaching, and it will spare you oceans of speech. The instant a call comes, give not a thought to the person or the condition. Drop it as a claim upon consciousness. Not his tumor, not her temper, not your lack. Drop the possessive, drop the noun. See it for what it is. Suggestion, the appearance of a power other than God. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment does not argue with the picture. It refuses the premise of two powers. That single refusal ends the debate. Words fall away because there is nothing to contradict. Resist not evil. To resist is to enthrone it. To unsee it as person is to expose it as nothing. In practice, you may find a brief inward sentence helpful to orient the mind. But let it be brief and never a quarrel. Father, this is not person, place, thing, nor law. This is only the arm of flesh, nothing. Or one presence, one power. Suggestion has no voice here. Then be still. Do not rehearse a list. Do not trace the family tree of the trouble. Do not tell God the news. Silence follows because the courtroom has been vacated. There is no defendant to try and no prosecutor to outtalk. Get thee behind me, Satan, is not a dramatic exorcism. It is the dismissal of suggestion from the front of consciousness to the nothingness behind it. Once gone, you do not keep looking behind you. You proceed. I recall a businessman, fiery by habit, who met an accusation at work and immediately organized his inner argument. Facts, emails, allies. He called and asked for help. I said only, I will help you. Then I did not think of him or the accuser. I recognized only mesmerism, a suggestion of two powers in the office. Within the hour, he found himself saying one simple sentence to his colleague, "Let's look again." The heat broke. Record surfaced, no one remembered. The thing dissolved without a fight. What changed? Not people persuaded, but suggestion exposed by his life experience, by the fruitage. He knew that less speech and more seeing had governed the day. This is the relief mechanism of depersonalization. It reduces words because the motive to argue evaporates when there is nothing there to convince. You are not indifferent to suffering, you are faithful to truth. Be still and know that I am God. The knowing arrives on the heels of the stillness that comes when the personal picture is dropped. Then and only then the impartation begins. Flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. That is the transition into stage 3. When error is seen as impersonal suggestion, the inner ear is freed from quarrel. It can hear, and what it hears is not a counter-argument to evil. It is the presence of the one that dissolves the dream of two without a word. Do you see? Stage 3 is the listening ear. It is not the end of words. It is the end of depending on them. You may still speak a sentence or two to prime remembrance, but your major activity is receptivity. Spirit declares truth within you. Do you see? The shift is this. You have moved from I know by personal effort to I am shown by inner impartation, from concentration tight, forcing to communion open, consenting. Flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. That is stage 3. Feel how this changes posture in life. The phone rings. A need is voiced. You do not hurry to recite truth at the caller or at the condition. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you, then I retire within. I give not a thought to person or problem. I become still. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. I am not inventing truth. I am listening for the word that already is. Sometimes there is a sentence. Sometimes there is only a hush that carries authority. Sometimes there is a specific instruction call here, wait there, say nothing now. The point is, it is given. It is not manufactured. Do you follow that? This inner showing is not mystical drama. It is quiet certainty. He wakeneth morning by morning. He wakeneth mine ear to hear as the learned. The learned, in this sense, are not those with many books. They are those with an awakened ear. You will notice the fruitage. Fears that once whipped you into speeches now dissolve faster, sometimes before the breath finishes. Your return to peace is quicker and surer. Guidance appears without strain, as if the next step had been placed a moment ahead of your foot, and your presence turns gentler. People relax around you without knowing why. It is the Spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. The quickening is not in your language, it is in your listening. Let me give you an incident so that you may see how ordinary this is. A young mother wrote, frantic about a fever. I answered, I will help you. Then I closed my eyes and refused the picture. I did not wrestle. I let the inward silence settle and waited. After a minute, a simple assurance rose, not as a sentence to send her, but as a recognition to abide in life is. I stayed there until the urgency in me was gone. 10 minutes later, she messaged, he is sleeping. No speeches, no techniques, no persuading God to be God. By her life experience, by the fruitage, she knew she had not been held by my words, but by the presence that speaks without sound. Practice this stage in small, faithful ways. Pause many times a day for 15 seconds. Say within, Father, and then let the jaw unclench and the inner ear open. Wait. Do it before you answer a difficult email. Do it when praise comes, not only when criticism comes. because we unsee human good as well as human evil to behold the invisible. If an impulse arises to fix, to argue, to decorate the moment with truth phrases, notice it and let it pass. Return to waiting. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. The confidence is not in your performance, it is in His government. In conversations, keep ministry minimal and presence maximal. A neighbor complains, you do not correct his metaphysics, you listen within while he talks, and perhaps you say only, I see, or let's look again. Often that is enough for the atmosphere to change. Why? Because you are not adding noise to noise. You are letting the one voice be audible. The listening ear is more contagious than the lecturing tongue. Do you see? Measure the reality of this stage not by how reverent you feel, but by fruitage. Less reactivity, quicker homecomings to quiet, guidance that arrives in time, reconciliations without debates, a tenderness that does not collapse into sentimentality. If these are appearing, you are being taught truth within. If not, be honest, not discouraged. Return to the simple. I will help you. Then retire within and listen. Your work is receptivity. God is the doer. When the ear listens, the word speaks, and life bears witness. Stage 4 is silence, but not the vacancy of soundlessness. It is the fullness of presence. It is the hush after the storm, when you discover there was only one all along. Here words have outlived their usefulness, except for human logistics. I live, yet not I. Christ liveth my life. Do you see? Not I inventing, not I repairing, not I defending, but the infinite acting as the only life of this moment. The ear is listening, the doer is God. You find that you have almost nothing to say, because there is nothing to add to what is. When speaking is required, it is simple, clean, functional. The ministry is not in the syllables, it is in the atmosphere. Identity is settled here. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear that, not as flattery, but as fact. It is the Father's recognition of Himself as the Son. That is the end of striving to appear spiritual. You do not prop your sense of self with phrases. You retire from authorship. Not my will, but thine be done. The human effort to get, to fix, to argue withers because it has no office left to hold. The as has been consented to, the eyes has been realized, and now without fanfare, the I that tried to manage gives way to the I am that governs of itself. Do you follow that? Outwardly, this looks like less teaching, less correcting, less proving. You no longer feel compelled to adjust anyone's metaphysics or to decorate a room with talk. You enter, and there is a benediction as tangible as warmth. An agitated meeting turns just and calm. You have not campaigned, perhaps. You have offered only one sentence, let's look again. And even that arose from silence. A child with night fears sleeps at the doorstep of your presence. A neighbor who expected a debate finds himself speaking slower, then not needing to defend. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. The rest is listening. The power is where the words are not. Fruitage at this stage is quiet and steady. Crises dissolve before they organize into dramas. Guidance arrives at the speed of the need, so choices feel timely rather than heroic. Offense fails to stick. It passes through as wind through reed. Supply normalizes. It is not theatrical. It is sufficient and on time. Bodies relax into usefulness without a parade of petition. Homes become places of rest where guests sit longer and argue less, not knowing why. You do not measure by mystical thrills. You measure by your life experience, by the fruitage. If harmony is appearing without the strain of personal authorship, You are not in an emotional jag. You are resting in God as the only activity. Do not mistake this for passivity. This silence is a living alertness. My sheep hear my voice. The ear is awake, instantly ready. If suggestion knocks, there is no courtroom, no dialogue, only a glance that sees the arm of flesh as nothing and returns to stillness. Get thee behind me, Satan, not as drama, but as dismissal. You do not scan for evil. You refuse its premise and abide. This is resist not evil in practice, not yielding to error, but refusing to grant it a second power. The work has become non-work, spirit performing its own office while you remain receptivity. How then to move in a day? As you wake, you do not build ladders of thought. You yield. One whisper, Father, and then the long inward nod. Let the breath fall into the bosom of silence. Carry that hush as you make the bed, answer the email, greet the stranger. If a word is given, speak it. If none is given, do not invent it. The action that flows from this is precise and unlabored. Make the call. Hold the tongue. Cross the street. Stay home. You are not deciding by preference. You are being moved by presence. Understand, this is not for a spiritual elite. It is the natural consequence of steady obedience to as and is, and the depersonalizing of error until the compulsion to speak fades and the capacity to hear reigns. The Father that dwelleth in me, he doeth the works. Here the doer is God, and the ear is listening. Remain there, and you will find that peace ceases to be a visitor and becomes an atmosphere. Others will be lifted without lecture, and life will bear its own witness. Do you see? Let us locate ourselves without a whip. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Not to condemn, but to clarify. The stages are not a ladder to climb for merit. They are a mirror for practice and a map back to receptivity. Do you see? We are not grading spirituality. We are noticing posture. Where this week are you still leaning on words to feel safe? When the account dips, do you multiply sentences to brace yourself? If a symptom hums, do you recite until you are hoarse? In a strained conversation, do you rush to correct? When the headlines shout, do you feel a compulsion to speak at the world? These are not sins, they are signposts showing where the tongue is still trying to do the ear's work. Signs of stage one are not hard to recognize. Compulsive explaining, the need to say something immediately, correcting others' phrases while neglecting presence, feeling defeated if words fail to shift the scene, a sense of pressure to keep truth spinning, as if harmony depended on mental fluency. There is often a personal drama around problems, my problem, his fault, her condition. Do not scold yourself. Stage one is priming the pump. Just do not worship the pump. Use a sentence or two to turn, then let the sentence fall into stillness. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment refuses the arena of two powers and ends the argument, which is the beginning of hearing. Stage two begins to show itself when you return to is more quickly. There is less debate, fewer inner speeches, more stability under pressure. A disturbance rises. You notice the tug, but do not enthrone it. 10 seconds of be still and know that I am God, and the atmosphere in you changes. You depersonalize error without fanfare. It is not my problem. It is only hypnotic suggestion, the arm of flesh, nothingness, and the compulsion to fix diminishes. Practical fruitage appears. Tempers cool before they crest. Decisions come in time. Your words grow shorter and kinder. You feel less pulled by global noise. Do you follow that? By your life experience, by the fruitage. You can tell when isness is governing more of the day. Stage 3 announces itself in pauses. You find yourself saying inwardly, "Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth." And then actually hearing. Guidance feels imparted, not invented, precise, gentle, often unspectacular, but uncannily apt. The impulse to bless replaces the impulse to debate. My conversation is usually limited to "I will help you," and within I retire to listen. You notice people relaxing around you without knowing why. He wakeneth morning by morning. He wakeneth mine ear to hear as the learned. The learned are those who are being taught. If you are being taught within, you will know it by swifter peace and kinder outcome. Stage 4, even in a foretaste, is recognized by quiet joy, without a reason, minimal speech, and a sense of being carried. You are not passive, you are effortlessly available. By their fruits ye shall know them. The fruits here are consistent and humane, just dealings, timely supply without theater, bodies becoming useful, homes turning gentle. Your tongue grows simple. Your presence grows spacious. I live, yet not I. Christ liveth my life. Words are rare and right when given, and silence does more than sentences once did. Now, how to use this inventory? Look honestly at a single day. Where did you speak beyond what was given? Where did you return quickly to is? Where did you notice suggestion and drop it as nothing? Where did you pause and feel truth imparted? Where did harmony appear without your strain? If you find much stage 1, rejoice it is honest. Then immediately use the map. One phrase. Then stillness. If stage 2 is frequent, widen the pauses. If stage 3 flickers, honor it, give it more room. If stage 4 visits, be grateful and very humble. Do not try to hold it abide, and let it hold you. Remember the prodigal who was met with, "Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine." That is as and is welcoming you at every turn. Repentance is not remorse. It is a turning away from speech as power to the listening ear as government. The speed of your return, not the brilliance of your words, is the measure of your practice. Let this be your nightly examine. Where today did I listen? Where did I add noise? Then, without self-accusation, say, "Father," and rest. The mirror will become a window, the window will open, and the word that needs no syllable will do what only it can do. Do you see? Let us now make it plain. A rule of life not austere, not theatrical, but steady enough to train consciousness out of reliance on phrases into reliance on the listening ear. This is not a lazy man's work. The discipline is gentle, but it is discipline. Do you see? We will not build a monastery. We will build a rhythm morning knowing, midday depersonalization, moments of listening at every contact, and evening silence. In the morning, before the world climbs onto your shoulders, do not sermonize to yourself 2 or 3 sentences, then stillness. I and my Father are one. God is appearing as individual being, God as me. Then harmony is, life is, love is, I am. That is enough. Stop. He wakeneth morning by morning. He wakeneth mine ear to hear as the learned. Let the ear be wakened. Sit 30 seconds, a minute if you can, not to decorate the day with religious feeling, but to acknowledge the fact before the facts. Do you follow that? Words only prime, presence governs. Rise then and make the bed, pour the coffee, answer the first ordinary thing, carrying not phrasing, but awareness. By midday, the common parade will have offered you its suggestions. a tone in an email, an ache in the body, a number that looks thin. Here is stage 2 with the relief of depersonalization. Give not a thought to the person or the condition. Do not drape the picture with names and histories. Drop the possessive. Not my pain, not their malice, not this lack, only hypnotic suggestion pretending two powers. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. Righteous judgment refuses the premise of a second power. If you need a sentence, let it be brief and impersonal. One presence, one power, the arm of flesh is nothingness. Then be still 10 seconds. Return to is. Be still and know that I am God. Do not argue. Do not work up heat. The refusal of a second power ends the quarrel and opens the ear. At every point of human contact, let stage 3 govern the tongue. Before you answer a call, read a message, or step into a difficult room, pause. Inside, say, Father, or speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you, then I retire within. I listen. Often you will find that the atmosphere changes before your sentence forms. When you do speak, let it be minimal and kind. I see. Let's look again. Sometimes silence itself is the sentence. You are not withholding help. You are refusing to add noise to noise. It is the spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. The quickening is not in eloquence, but in presence, made audible through your listening. In the evening, do not grade the day. Offer it. Sit in silence to cultivate stage 4, not to create an experience, but to consent. Not my will, but thine be done. Let gratitude be wordless, a settling, a soft thank you without syllables. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. If a thought appears, touch it lightly and let it pass. If a phrase is given, receive it and let it empty into hush. End the day not with effort, but with yieldedness. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear it for yourself, and then sleep in it. Keep this rhythm, not as law, but as love. Morning, 2 sentences, then stillness. Midday, depersonalize. Refuse 2 powers, return to is. Contact, pause, listen. Answer little and kindly. Evening, consent to silence. Hold to it through dull days and urgent days. This is not a lazy person's work. It is faithful, quiet obedience, and by your life experience, by the fruitage, you will know. Fewer arguments inwardly, quicker peace, just dealings at work, timely supply without theater, bodies growing useful, homes turning gentle. The decrease of words, the increase of grace. That is the training. From words to receptivity until silence becomes natural. Do you see? When crisis strikes, the tongue wants to run and the mind wants to fix. A late night report of illness, headlights and a phone call about an accident, a message that exposes betrayal. The blood quickens. The old habit is to assemble speeches, diagnoses, defenses, prayers with urgency in them as if noise could become a power. Here is where we protect the work. Reduce your outward speech. Do not argue. Do not diagnose. Do not preach. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. Then I retire within. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. Do you see? The inner sequence is simple and exact. First, drop person and condition. Give not a thought to the name, the relation, the symptom, the wreckage. Refuse the picture, its labels. Second, recognize impersonal suggestion, the universal mesmerism of 2 powers presenting itself as fact. It is the arm of flesh nothingness. Third, return to is. Harmony is. Life is. God is appearing as individual being. God as me, as you, as this moment. Fourth, Listen for impartation. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Do not manufacture a sentence. Receive one if it is given. Do you follow that? Why does this work? Because you stop energizing the appearance with attention and language, and you align with the one power. Resist not evil is not passivity. It is the refusal to give a second power the dignity of a wrestling match. Be still and know that I am God. The knowing follows the stillness that follows the end of argument. In that instant, presence becomes audible to the listening ear. You are no longer trying to heal a person or mend a scene. You are recognizing what is already true and letting the recognition govern. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. The seeing is the saving. Let me give you 3 brief illustrations. Because by your life experience, by the fruitage, you must know. A father calls from an emergency room. I say, I will help you, and hang up. Within, I drop father, child, hospital, the nouns that would anchor the hypnosis. I see suggestion without person. I return to is, life is, omnipresence is, and wait. A single word arises. Whole. I abide there until the panic in me falls away. Minutes later, they're sending us home. No drama, no debate, no spiritual theater. Presence, recognized, evidenced itself. A woman discovers her partner's betrayal. The tongue aches to speak sentences that wound or justify. She texts me, I will help you. Inside, I refuse the picture's personal hooks. Suggestion appears as heartbreak with a history, but it is still only the claim of 2 powers. I return to is, love is, and listen. The impartation is not a slogan. It is a quiet instruction. Say little. Meet face to face. Let the air clear before deciding. Within a week, the path is plain. Sometimes reconciliation, sometimes honest parting, but either way, the atmosphere is clean, the decisions timely, and the soul unshredded. Fruitage is not always instantaneous mending of forms. It is the continuous presence of peace and right action. A driver skids on rain. Metal folds. A witness is shouting. The impulse is to flood the moment with talk. Do not say, I will help you. Then drop pictures. Recognize mesmerism's noise. Return to his God as this very scene, not absent, not arriving. Listen. Perhaps the only given word is stop. Stop the inner wind. In that pause, someone remembers the hazard lights, another calls the right number, breath slows, assessment clarifies. Peace, be still. Sometimes the sea flattens at once. Sometimes the boat is guided safely to shore. In both cases, the government is of God, not of speech. Do you see how minimalist outward ministry protects inward realization? Words are only auxiliaries. In crisis, words sometimes are an interference. The more severe the storm, the quieter the helm must be. Expect fruitage, not fireworks, but resolution. Sometimes immediate, sometimes progressive, always with increased peace and clarity. The mark that you have not been on an emotional jag is the steady lessening of fear, the rightness of the next step, the absence of after arguing in the mind. My sheep hear my voice. Let crisis be your proving ground for the listening ear. Say little, retire within, consent to as and is, and let grace do what only grace can do. Let us close soberly and gratefully. The path we have traced is simple, not easy, but wonderfully plain. From the letter words that prime to is God appearing as individual being, from as to is the present fact, from is to depersonalization, error, seen as hypnotic suggestion without person, law, or substance. From that freedom to the listening ear, truth imparted instead of recited. And at last, to silence the spirit-filled hush where I live, yet not I, Christ liveth my life. Do you see the arc? It is the decrease of words and the increase of grace until the ear listens and the word speaks of itself. Wherever you find yourself in this moment is workable. The Father is not withholding. Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. The only question is receptivity, not brilliance, not perfect phrasing, receptivity. He wakeneth morning by morning, he wakeneth mine ear to hear as the learned. The learned in this way are not the eloquent, they are the available. If today you can only manage one clean sentence and a sincere pause, that is holy. If tonight you can only whisper, Father, and then let the jaw unclench into silence, that is holy. Grace meets you at the door, you actually open. Hold fast to your motive. We are not here to be impressive. We are not here to win debates. We are not here to master phrases. Words are only auxiliaries. Words sometimes are an interference. We are here to be available to inner guidance, to let God be God as our very living. It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The quickening of a meeting, a home, a body, a decision will not come by the weight of your syllables, but by the weight of presence recognized and yielded to. My conversation is usually limited to, I will help you. That is not shyness. It is stewardship of the atmosphere in which God is the doer. Carry this one self-check into your days. Am I trying to speak truth into life, or am I letting life speak truth within me? Do you see the difference? One leans forward, the other yields. One argues with the sea, the other hears, peace be still, and consents. One tries to manufacture light, the other uncovers what already is. Flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. Heaven, here is the depth within you where separation is dissolved and the voice is clear. Let your verification remain practical. By their fruits ye shall know them. If the words are decreasing and harmony is increasing, steady of peace, just dealings, timely supply without theater, bodies becoming useful, homes growing gentle, then you are not on an emotional jag. You are under government. If results lag, do not despair. Simplify. Drop the extra talk. Depersonalize the suggestion. Return to is listen. The government will become evident as fear lessens, as next steps become right-sized, as after arguing and the mind fades. Be still and know that I am God. And now a benediction that is also a charge. Walk softly and steadily with the practice given you. A little morning knowing, much midday depersonalization, frequent pauses for the listening ear, and evening silence. I and the Father are one. Not my will, but thine be done. This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Let these not be ornaments, but recognitions. Keep your words few and clean. Keep your receptivity large and ready. This is disciplined, humane, and provable by fruitage. The decrease of words, the increase of grace. Thank you.